Welcome to How to Retire on Time, a show that answers your questions about all things retirement, including income taxes, Social Security, healthcare, and more. My name is Mike Decker. I'm a licensed financial advisor who can even file your taxes. All that said, please remember this is just a show, not financial advice. Everything you hear should be considered informational. Joining me in the studio today is Mr. David Franson. David, thanks for being here.
Hello, thank you.
David's going to read your questions, and I will do my best to answer them. You can text your questions anytime during the week. Save this number in your phone, 913-363-1234. That is the number to text, 913-363-1234. Let's jump in.
Hey, Mike, can I use CDs and Treasuries only for my reservoir?
Yes, you can. But you need to understand the risks you're taking.
Yeah.
You're just talking about currency collapses and all of that. These are kind of the cash and cash equivalent category, in my opinion. I know Treasuries isn't technically a cash or cash equivalent, but I kind of rope it into that category. They operate off of fixed or predictability, but you need to understand what reinvestment risk is. So let's say your CDs or Treasuries today are at 3 to 4%, the arbitrary baseline rate, okay? What if in 5 years they're 1 to 2%? I mean, look back and from around 2015, 2016, I think Treasuries were like 1.5%. Are you okay with that risk? Have you amassed so much wealth that you can basically say, I'm just parking my money somewhere and I don't need to worry about inflation risk. I don't need to be worried about currency collapse. I don't need to be worried about reinvestment risk. I have so much wealth, I can just handle that. I can just absorb all of that. Once you really lay it out like that, I think people tend to sober up a little bit. There are people out there I've met that just say, we don't want to take any risk. And so they go into the category that they can control. Whenever you go into something that you want that much control, you're often taking unintentionally other risks you don't really fully comprehend. That's what I have found, at least. So what I believe in these situations is you need to have some assets, in my opinion, and whatever amount's right for you, but have some assets with long-term growth. And you say, well, I want to take risk in the market. How risky is it if you don't need to touch it for 10, 15 years? I mean, really, how risky is it? If you have a properly constructed portfolio, how likely is Apple going to go out of business in 10 to 15 years? How likely do you think people are going to stop drinking Coca-Cola? Do you think IBM's going out of business anytime soon? Or Microsoft is going under? So you can invest in long-term companies that pay a reasonable dividend and be very boring about it. But you still have more long-term growth potential. And yeah, it might dip in a little bit, but you've at least set yourself up to hedge against inflation, to hedge against reinvestment risk, to give yourself that kind of growth potential, and then operate within a reservoir, which we call is your principal protected assets that help you get through the difficult times, and stick to fixed products like CDs or Treasuries. Now, that said, based on my calculations, if you only operate off of fixed products because of reinvestment risk and because you've got less growth potential overall, you don't have the highest odds or probability of success if you live a long and fruitful retirement, 30 plus years. So you've got to understand how to remove emotion just for a second, look at statistics, look at probability, look at really what you're saying, define how are you diversifying your assets based on those objectives, and then bring back the emotions and saying, well, I'm not comfortable with that. What can we adjust? What can we change so that it fits your needs? We do need to live within our emotional and economic limits. But that said, we don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater because we're concerned about the next 1 or 2 years. You don't need to spend all of your money next year or the year after or the year after. That's not how this works. You need your money to last. In the world of psychology, there's this really cool phrase when someone has a behavior that's preventing them from living their best life. And they say, if you can name it, you can tame it. If you can name the behavior that is preventing you from living your best life, you can start to identify it, raise your awareness of it, and then slowly set new experiences that alter that behavior so that you can get past it and then live a better life. I've seen this used with people that have crippling anxiety, crippling depression, OCD, and so on. People that have the addiction to correcting other people or one-upping other people and they wonder why they have no friends. I've seen people, all sorts of different issues behaviorally, and this simple technique has helped them correct the behavior. The same is true in finance. Why is it that you feel a certain way? Let's name the behavior. Let's identify that trauma and then start to set baby steps towards new behavior that puts you into a position where you can have a healthier built portfolio to increase your probability of success. Yeah, I'm a financial advisor that just happens to realize psychology. Why? Because I have found that investments are more of a behavioral conversation than an actual investment conversation. I mean, yeah, we do a ton of research when it comes to the investments, the products, and what we're doing. But at the end of the day, we're humans and we are emotional. And so for conversations like this, we want to understand, why is it that are we moving to a position of more certainty? What do we fear? And is that fear well-founded? Or is it because you don't want to address a trauma or something that happened previously? Now, I get that's uncomfortable. I get people don't want to do the work. I get that people might say, well, this is what I'm comfortable with, but that's a very limiting belief system. And as long as you're okay with understanding, the youth say, these are the receipts, right? I'm collecting my receipts right now so we can go back and say, I said this. As long as you're willing to take on inflation risk, you're willing to take on reinvestment risk, that whenever CDs or treasuries roll over, it's a lower rate. It could be. As long as you're willing to accept them, all these different risks moving forward, then that's fine. But you need to understand you're living well below your means, probably, at least.
And so do we need to, for some people out there, just redefine what reinvestment risk is?
Yeah, your CD or treasury is offering you 3-4%, and then the time it matures, now it's in cash earning nothing. What's available next? Maybe it's 1%.
So you're taking that risk that down the road, you're not going to have the same rate. It might be way less.
Yeah, well, some people are using CDs, treasuries. I'll even throw MYGAs in there, multi-year guaranteed annuities, which is basically a CD from an insurance company. And they're saying, well, I'm living off the interest. And I've laddered everything out so that my $1 million will grow at 4 or 5%, and I will enjoy the interest on it and then reinvest it, assuming that they have control over the future rates. They don't. And that's such a big risk. I get people want to have control, but it's the biggest facade. It's the biggest lie we tell ourselves, that we can actually control the future of the markets, that we can control the future of interest rates, that we have some sort of negotiating power over whatever rate a bank's can offer you. We don't. That's not how this works. And so that's why, for those willing to at least have a more holistic conversation about a portfolio, about a plan, about how all of this works, we are here to help. But you have to be willing to have a conversation. You have to be willing to seek what is right for you, which may not be what you want to do today, but as you learn, as you understand, as you grow as a human, and growth is painful, but as we grow as a human, we can move into a healthier position, which unlocks potentially a better overall lifestyle, a more comfortable lifestyle. That's all the time we've got for the show today. If you enjoyed the show, consider subscribing to it wherever you get your podcast. Just search for How to Retire on Time. Discover if your portfolio is built to weather flat market cycles, or if you're missing tax minimization opportunities that you may not even know exist. Explore strategies that may be able to help you lower your overall risk while potentially increasing your overall growth and lifestyle flexibility. This is not your ordinary financial analysis. Learn more about Your Wealth Analysis and what it could do for you, regardless of your age, asset, or target retirement date. Go to www.yourwealthanalysis.com today to learn more and get started.